Hi everybody, my name is Sami Kuryuki. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that has been ignored for a long time. I am titling today's topic From Partnership to Pandemic, the full 40 years history of U.S. China health cooperation and how Trump sparked COVID-19 and economic collapse. In the annals of global health, a few stories are as cautionary as the erosion of the U.S. China cooperation on pandemics, a partnership that flourished under President Barack Obama and crumbled under President Donald Trump. What began as a robust framework for detecting and containing infectious diseases, born from the ashes of the 2003 SARS outbreak, devolved into suspicion and isolation. This breakdown didn't just hinder early warnings about COVID-19. It amplified the virus's global rampage, triggered shutdowns, supply chain chaos, and an economic nosedive that erased years of recovery. As we reflect years on, the data is stark. Trump inherited a humming economy from Obama, but left behind a wreckage that continues to echo into sluggish growth, ballooning debt, and livelihood which are lost. Drawing on expert analysis and economic records, this post dissects how one administration choices turned containable threat into a trillion-dollar catastrophe. I'm going to be sharing my screen here a little bit so that we can get to see what we're talking about here. I'm going to share what I have on my other screen, and I will do it as a slideshow. We're gonna start now. I hope you guys are seeing this. Let's start sharing this. If I can be able to. Yes, thank you very much. Now, the full 40 years history of U.S. China health cooperation and how Trump sparked COVID-19 economic collapse. This all began in 1979 with a handshake in Beijing, where President Carter at that time met with the prime minister of, or the president of China. The United States and China agreed to cooperate in the fields of medicine and public health. That was the joint communique on science and technology, January 31st of 1979. Just 22 days after normalizing diplomatic relations with China, on January 1st, 1979, President Jimmy Carter sent a high-level health delegation to Beijing, and this marked the birth of former United States-China Health Cooperation. The first agreement, the U.S. China Protocol on Cooperation in Medicine and Health and Public Health, was signed in 1980. And this, according to the U.S. National Library of Medicine in 2021, they said, and I quote, "This laid the foundation for decades of cooperation." Now we enter into the 1980s to 1990. After that started, now we have to build trust and then build the lab one at a time. This is the beginning of the U.S. China cooperation. In 1980, the U.S. China Joint Committee on Cooperation, Medicine, and Public Health was established. This actually brought the annual meetings between HHS, NIH, CDC, and Chinese health officials began. In 1985, there was a first joint cancer research program. In 1998, after 1988 actually, after HIV/AIDS emerges, both nations started sharing data on blood safety and epidemiology. According to one Dr. Roger Glass, the former NIH Fogarty International Center director, and I quote, "This wasn't just diplomacy, it was shared survival." Moving on. Okay, come 2003, George W. Bush is the president. There was SARS, which was actually our wake-up call. Of course, China, because of the way it had been led, and as they were building their economy so that they can catch up, they did a lot of things in secret. And therefore, China's initial secrecy during the SARS outbreak 2002 to 2003, which infected about 8,000 plus people and killed 774 worldwide. The US lost about 74 citizens. This really came as a turning point. China decided to reform its disease reporting system instead of doing this in secrecy. And the US CDC helped to train Chinese epidemiologists. In 2004, the CDC and China CDC signed a memorandum of understanding for infectious disease surveillance. In 2005, China established its own field epidemiology training program, which was modeled after the US CDC's. Yanzhong Huan, who was in the Council of Foreign Relations in China, was quoted saying, "SARS was a catalyst. It forced both nations to say, we rise or fall together." We usher in the Obama era in 2009 to 2017, which at that time which was really the golden age of the pandemic preparedness. Obama didn't just inherit a broken economy. We remember what happened in 2008. All the banks were collapsing, and then there was this emergency meeting in Congress that started this bailout of the big banks and the big industries, the automotive industry and all that. Obama invested also in global health security like no president before. We're going to look at the year and also the milestone. 2009. There was a launch of the U.S. China Strategic Economic Dialogue, which is SESNED, with a dedicated health track. In 2014, 4 years later, there was a joint U.S. China response to Ebola, and both countries sent medical teams to West Africa where Ebola was ravaging people over there. In 2015, a year later, the U.S. funds Africa CDC together with China. China now at this time is contributing money to fight Ebola because they don't want that to come out and affect them also, which was actually a joint project born from the SED. In 2016, there were 10 U.S. CDC experts in China and 39 local staff that were embedded in the country. The Lancet Commission of the U.S. China Health Cooperation in 2021 said, by 2016, the U.S. and China had world's strongest bilateral pandemic partnership. Now, let's review a little bit about Obama's economic achievement. Of course, the economy was booming. There were 75 straight months of job growth. Unemployment fell, or actually fell from 10% when Obama became president to 4.7%. Along with that, the GDP growth was 2.5% annually in the final years. The median income for Americans was plus $4,800 in the last 2 years. Greg Mankiw, who was the former Bush economic advisor, said, Obama handed Trump a strong, stable, and globally connected America. Now, Trump takes office in 2017. The great unraveling now begins. Let us look at the year and also what happened at that time. In 2017, and remember what just before Obama, during the Obama time, there was also Obama had this agreement with the China, what was that? The countries that surround China. United States had agreements with them so that they can be able to counter now China on trade. And there was an agreement of how they were going to take over from some of the stuff that we were getting from China. Because the biggest problem that we have with China, and the reason why China has grown so much and we have declined, and which this will be a topic for another day, was China has been devaluing their currency. And because of that, then Obama started talking to the countries around there, because we cannot be able to immediately bring all the industries back in the United States. You had to start somewhere, and you had to fight a counter. And because of that, the trade between US and China really has suffered quite a bit. And Trump's answer to that, when he came in, let's stop all this cooperation with China, those things that we are doing with them, let's do away with it and continue on and put tariffs on and all that. And in addition to that, big mistakes. In 2017, he canceled that cooperation, the S&ED health track. There was no more high-level meetings. In 2018, he proposed 30% cut to CDC global health. Now he's trying to fight with China and kind of taking stuff away from them that we were doing with them, even if how good it was. In 2019, he eliminated the CDC epidemiologist post in China, which was in July 2019. Only 3 staff were left in China, down from 10. According to one, Dr. Friedman, the former CDC director, The message was clear. China is a rival, not a partner. Then Dr. Bao Pingzhu, who was the former CDC China chief between 2007 and 2011, was quoted saying, if someone had been there from the CDC, we could have known in real time. Now, this is basically now COVID, when COVID happened, you know, that is what they see, that particular official from China is saying. November 2019, COVID-19 emerges, but no one in the US is watching in China. There is no US eyes on the ground in China, no active high-level dialogues, no trust. China now had gone back to its original secrecy. Not that it chose to do that, but because the next administration that has come in here in the US is now forcing them, is actually playing a much more tougher hand, which was okay. But on that, there was some downside of it, and we come to see about. China now reports to WHO on December 31st in 2019. But at that time, it's too late when they're reporting to the WHO that, hey, COVID, we are dealing here with a virus we cannot be able to contain. And I'm sorry, it's gotten out of hand. The Reuters investigation in 2020 was quoted as saying, the Trump administration cut staff by more than 2/3 at the key U.S. public health agency in China. Here is a domino effect. The economic collapse. We remember what happened after COVID happened, and there was a global shutdown. A lot of everything was shut down. Only essential work was supposed to be done. Now, I have an impact and start chart that you can see over there. In Q2, the quarter two of 2020, the US GDP was negative 31.44, which was actually recorded as the worst since 1947. We lost about 22 million jobs in about 2 months. Unemployment now went as high as 14.7, which was actually the highest since the Great Depression. And this costed the United States $14 trillion, according to the Brookings Institute report in 2022. Now let's look at the chart in one, the truth in one chart. 2016, unemployment rate was 4.7% when Obama left office. In 2020, Trump's peak of the unemployment was 14.7%. And now let's look at 2025. There are some states that are still above 4% in many states, and actually it's going up. There was this joint economic committee of the U.S. Congress, and this is what they were quoted as saying. Trump inherited the longest economic expansion in history and left with the sharpest collapse. And now I have the final warning that this can happen again. We spent 40 years building a pandemic early warning system in China from 1979 to 2016. Trump dismantled it in 3 years. And now in 2025, We have H5N1 bird flu, which is spreading in the U.S. dairy cows. And China also has some cases going on. Now the question is, will we cooperate or repeat 2020? The Brookings Institute 2021 mentioned global health security is economic security. We know that at our own peril, as we can find back in 2020, that is what happened. We ignored the global health security, and therefore we lost economic security, which has taken so many years. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of countries in the world that still have not come back. It was just the other day, and every time when I'm talking to people, we remember that before COVID, there was a lot of establishments that were open 24 hours. Now they cannot be able to justify why they would be open 24 hours. There's a lot of businesses that actually will never come back. They never came back even after we were recovering during the Biden years. And even now, and of which the next topic we're going to be talking about is going to be about tariffs. I'm sorry, we're going to lose even some more. Now, the challenge to you guys. I know that not everything that is perfect. You know, I started this by basically asking AI the question, and I would like for you to do the same thing. I posed the question to AI for them to do an assessment of Trump and his policies as compared to and how Trump's policies led to where we are at today. And AI answered back to me some of those the stuff that I have mentioned. And therefore, I would like for you guys to share this video. And we end with the 40 years of the U.S. China pandemic teamwork, which was built from 1979, almost 50 years or so. It was strengthened during Obama time and also during Bush and during the Clinton years and the George H.W. Bush and Reagan in the 80s after Carter. This actually was destroyed under Trump. And the result was that the COVID-19 exploded, the economy collapsed, $14 trillion were gone in the U.S. economy. You can imagine how much the global economy lost. We cannot really get this, to happen again. And therefore, I'm challenging you guys to share this video with a lot of people. I'm going to also be looking at the comments that you guys are going to be having. If there's anything that you feel that you want to discuss about what I've said, you're more than welcome to ask that. Here are the sources that I have cited. You can go back and look at that, and all data was verified as of November 11, 2025, last week when I was working on this, or when I started working on this. So thank you very much, y'all, and we'll continue on with our discussion. And now I end my video.